Welcome to Grow Smarter, brought to you by Toby Marketing Media. As a founder, you know the pressure of making every marketing dollar count. My mission at Toby Agency is to help healthcare and wellness entrepreneurs have more confidence, waste less, and grow smarter in their marketing and media investments. Welcome back to the show, everyone. We are heading into quarter four, and for ambitious clinic owners, this is the most critical time of the year. It's the period when patient traffic spikes, driven by year-end health benefits and that natural desire to look and feel good before the holidays. But this opportunity comes with a massive challenge. Too often, clinics rely on deep, profit-eroding discounts or make avoidable promotional mistakes. The result? Busy calendars, but a disappointing hit to cash flow. Today, we're cutting through that guesswork. We're going to talk about growing smarter by using quarter four to strengthen your offers, boost end-of-year revenue, and set up a strong start for the new year. Our guest has a definitive, practical blueprint for making your promotions truly profitable, not just busy. And we're honored to introduce Ildi today, the go-to business consultant and certified coach for medical, aesthetic, and wellness clinic leaders across Canada and the US. With an incredible 24 years of experience working with over 450 clinics, from solo practitioners to multi-location teams, Ildi is known for providing clear, proven, and practical strategies that simplify operations and strengthen leadership. Crucially, Ildi is a former clinic owner who led a team of 22, so she understands the daily demands and pressure of running a profitable practice. She works with clients ready to stop second-guessing and make it up as they go and start running an in-demand business with clear systems. And we're going to talk a lot about systems today. Today, she's here to share her blueprint for quarter four, how to get that revenue boost you need using what you already have. So welcome to the show, Ildi. We met through a mutual client, and I say this a lot, and when I meet consultants, you always are wondering, is this person going to be an ally or someone that's going to conflict with me with the work that I need to do, right? I'm sure you asked that same question about me when you first met me too. And quickly, as we met, I think it was in Houston where we met for the first time together. I think it was even in the calls that we had prior to that, I was like, okay, this person is an ally. She knows what she's talking about. And in fact, I kind of realized as I got to know you better that you are actually someone who, if you were in a practice before I started with marketing, that might actually make my job easier as a marketing agency. So I want you just to maybe introduce yourself, tell me a little bit about yourself, talk about your days as a practice owner and sort of the transition into a consultant, and let us know what is the mission of Results Continuum. You're a consulting company that has worked with so many clinics over the years.
Awesome. It's great to be here. I'm excited to be here. The mission of Results Continuum Inc., we call that RCI for short. It is, people can go onto our site and have a look. I'll tell you what the real thing we do here is. I think you mentioned it in your intro. We're working with clinic owners who do not have a business degree and no one's shown them how to run the business. That's it. No one showed you. It's not your fault. Stop Googling. We're here. I'm here now. And really, Andrew, it is such a high regard and respect for that clinic owner and clinic manager, whoever it is, that they are probably feeling very isolated and alone in their work or in their leadership. And leadership is not really even a word that they identify with, but that this turns out to be a lonely, isolating job. So we're here to help and say, you do not need to figure this out alone. And my job is to help you run a business in a way that's profitable, meaning you have some money to put in the bank without actually feeling like you hate the business and want to burn it down on a weekly or monthly basis. But that just doesn't read well on a website. But that is the truth. And that leads to really how we provide our services. We're incredibly high touch. I work with about 60 clinics a year. And the 450 plus I've worked with on the website, that means that I've stayed with those clients for 5 or more years. I've really worked with thousands of clinics. And what that has allowed is for me to see on scale what's working and what's not. So that's what we do. And the whole range of how to run the business, all of it, everything from hiring or are you even ready to hire to staffing issues, coaching skills, what we'll get in today, which is what is it that my patients even want, consults that convert. So really taking the time you're spending in your business and making sure that, hey, if you're spending time and money getting the patients in, let's get them converted to a treatment or someone of interest. The one area we don't do, which is what makes you and I partners so well, is we don't do the external marketing. We do internal marketing. So internal marketing, I get asked, like, what does that even mean? We're really good at taking the awesome websites you build and the funnels that you build and meeting them where they arrive in the office. So your front office staff, your receptionist, honestly, even if it's a virtual assistant, an hour or two a week, we're there to support that team member and your other practitioners in the clinic so you can get the most out of that marketing dollar. So that is the one thing. I will say the one part of marketing we do that we've gotten really good at is the patient voice. So email marketing would be a really good example. When people hear that, as you and I know, a clinic owner starts to break out in a sweat when we start to say, hey, are you emailing or texting or communicating with your patients?
Yep.
We somehow have the fantasy like they're going to come to us. We're waiting
Yep.
for them to knock on the door. I don't want to send them an email that's bothering them, burdening them. My personal favorite is every client I've ever had says, I don't like getting those types of emails, so I don't want to be a sender of it. And I'm like, you don't need to send the gross emails. But when you see the difference in numbers and all of the impact of what that email can do for your practice, you tend to change your mind. The problem is the clinic owners are right. It does feel really gross to send out an email that's all about us, the clinic, our treatments, and here's what we're selling. Like, you're right. That's why it actually shouldn't be about you. It should be about the patient. So we're really
100%.
good at that technique called the flip. And it works. Like that's the short of the long. It works. The patient gets an email they want that they see themselves in, and they say, wow, that's exactly where I am right now. That's exactly what I need help with. I would love to have that. And then, that marketing and flow just simply works.
Yeah.
So,
You mentioned there's a lot of challenges I think that you probably have come across in your sort of 25 plus year career, doing this. But like it's that saying, like, the more you see things, the more they stay the same. You know what I mean? And in a lot of cases in my world, I live that life, right? I can almost bucket the types of problems or challenges that I think a lot of these practice owners sort of fit into with my own experience. And you mentioned a bunch of challenges there that cross over to marketing, some of them that don't cross over to marketing. But inevitably, when we talk about growth is not just about marketing, right? And growth is about the operations related to it. It's about training the staff on, these new systems or processes that you might have. If you have new products, you've got to train your staff, your providers, your injectors on all that stuff. So growth is a very, 4, 5, 6 dimensional sort of thing, right? That is not just simply a 1 or 2 dimensional thing. And I think I would love for you to share from your perspective of the common kind of like the biggest problems that you see from the seat that you sit in, right? More from a like whether it's internal marketing, like you just mentioned, whether it's internal operations, which I know you touch on a little bit, right? But like, what do you, if you were to kind of narrow it down to 2 or 3 of the biggest kind of buckets of problems that you see, what would you say those things are?
well, I'll say them politely today without being like enraged because I get pretty reacted really to the fact that I see an enormous amount of unnecessary suffering for those of us, Andrew, who are trying to run a business. And that is because of the first mistake I see, which is trying, in addition to their specialty, trying to become a business expert and literally drowning in the effort of trying to learn how to do business. And maybe we even take that back to its root, which I've mentioned today, which is the DIYers. So I get it. I look at something online, like it was just our Thanksgiving here. So I look at that pumpkin pie and that harvest table and I'm like, oh, I could probably do that. Because like I'm a person of action and pretty driven. I'm exactly like my clients, like you. So I'm
Yep.
like, yeah, well, I could do that. Or you see a website, you get excited. You're like, my team can do that.
Yep.
And so we've really unnecessarily dedicated ourselves to becoming business experts. And that is the most expensive, riskier, longest way around that you could take to try and figure it out yourself.
Yep.
So mistake one, I think, is the DIY. Really what people don't talk about and people just don't believe me of when they see these successful clinics, first of all, they're not the most polished ones you see on Instagram or TikTok. But what they don't see is when is the time to raise your hand and ask for help. So if they want to know something about marketing, great. Google it, Instagram it, get the free thing. But now I would ask you to go back into your Instagram and look at the 43,000 carousels and things that you saved to come back to later.
Totally.
And then come on over, DM me and go, you're right. I haven't gone back to any of them. So the intent is there and the instinct is there. And I'd love to tell people your instinct is right. However, after consuming so much content, you've got to realize that this is the other mistake is that I think we're getting addicted to learning. Like learning and knowing something and doing it and putting it into place are two very different things.
Yeah, learning and then doing nothing, right? Basically.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
like, can we blame anyone? Like, can
Yeah.
you blame me or anyone else?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the amount of information it's incredible. So what's happened is I apparently, I see the research now that I get a dopamine hit when I see a really good idea arriving to me, excuse me, on my phone. I'm like, wow, that is so cool. Our clients would love that. Let's do that. So the challenge is that it's just interesting to say, what did I do with that information? So we have a saying here at RCI that says only action is rewarded. And then when I explore with my clients, let's set the business aside for a minute. What is getting in the way of taking the action? Then the really good and important work happens, which is to say, I'm not sending out emails because I feel like genuinely it's going to bother my patient. I don't want to feel like a gross salesy person. I also don't want to feel like these other, I call it dancing clinics on the internet. Not that there's anything wrong with the dancing, but a time and place.
Yeah. That's such an interesting thing. The TikTok thing is so fascinating. I generally tell them, like, you're a professional. You're dealing with people's health. It's coolly whimsical and show your personality, but ultimately, like, you need to present a professional front. Like, you're sticking things into people and prescribing. Like, it's a little different from a small business that's doing HVAC or plumbing, trying to go viral versus like a medical professional. Yeah. Right. And so I'm glad that you mentioned that actually.
I'm actually funner and funnier than I look. If people give a chance to get to know me, they're like, one of the best parts is she's really fun. And I am. The thing is, there's a time and a place. And I think most of my clients look back and go, wow, I can't believe all like the moving parts, hat and cane dance we had to do to get people's interests. So I'm saying, like, use that sparingly. But
100%,
I think what we do here is close the gap between what you learned that you saw and excited you and activated you out of the genuine interest of your patients and what you acted on about that. And once you figure out what those barriers are and what is holding you back from taking the action. So I'll give you a perfect example. People will say, I really want to get my team on board to get this new product or new treatment off the ground in our clinic. And they kind of do product knowledge training, which I have really strong opinions about why product knowledge training is way overdone in all clinics. And it's a giant, mostly waste of time, meaning I'd like you to reduce it to be like 20% of what you do versus the 80. Oh my gosh. Because after 24 years, Andrew, there is actually seeing, okay, product knowledge training, you invited a rep in to show you how this new technique or new treatment or product is going to help. I've watched this for 24 years now, and I see a pattern. Product knowledge training on its own is there because you think that the staff will become knowledgeable and motivated to sell the product.
Mhm.
Great. So that would mean that anytime you bring in a rep who caters lunch, does the whole thing,
Yep.
comes in and does it, that your sales will increase. And you know what? They do. So if here's a graph and here's the baseline, then what happens is you put product knowledge training here and you get this tiny little bump.
Bump.
But the
Yeah.
problem is I'm interested in that continuing to grow. Not like this. I'm fine with slow growth, right? My clients stay with me 5 years plus. So I'm fine with the slow growth, but what you see is it's what we call like the arc of motivation. Every single experience in life, everything, especially in this busy, busy world, has an arc of motivation, which means the thing is most desirable and interesting on the way up and at the top, and then it's over. So my
Oh, so
clients,
that's what happens when my pipe dreams fizzle out, right? It's on the downward arc of motivation.
like literally, Andrew, an idea you're excited about like 3 weeks ago, where like, yes, I'm going to devote my life to this idea.
Yeah.
You couldn't even name it now. You'd have to scroll
Yeah.
through your phone.
So how
And it's
many
really
arcs do I have
interesting.
running right now, right? They're all like
No.
crisscrossing over each
Well,
other,
now
like most
imagine
of us
like you own a
entrepreneurs do.
clinic, and whether you have one team member or 10, you're in charge of keeping them, quote, motivated. That is like a full-time job to keep
Totally.
things interesting. So the barrier is, first of all, I don't know what to do with my staff to get that treatment or product launched successfully. And by launched, I mean to get some traction, get some patients wanting it and wanting it continuously. So what happens
Yep.
is they bring in a product, they do product knowledge training, and you get this tiny little result. And the reality is, if you have 5 staff, not all of them are going to love it and want to implement that product knowledge. But guess what? Your patients are not buying according to 90% of that product knowledge training. So what's missing in product knowledge training and what it is meant to focus on is the technical parts of it. Well, people aren't buying according to the technical parts of what you do. They're buying based on how it makes them feel or what they want around a problem that they're hoping you can help them solve. So product knowledge on its own provides, let's
I
call it
quite
a mini boost.
say that again. Sorry.
It's a mini boost. Product knowledge
Yeah.
alone gives you a mini boost.
Yep.
If you do product knowledge plus an event or an offer, like let's call it an introductory offer. And I know people are like, yeah, don't discount your services, know your worth, etc. Well, guess what? Nobody can be paid their worth. We're cherished, precious human beings. So it is okay, despite what Instagram told you to be high and mighty, it is okay to say, here's our new massage therapist, Andrew, and an introductory offer with a slight discount to have a relationship form there and give it a try has literally always paid off. You could make it for a week. You could make it for a month. You could make it the first time you go to see Andrew for 6 months. Like it works. Okay. So product knowledge alone, little mini boost. Product knowledge plus an offer or an event, that gets a modest boost. But if you do product knowledge, and we have here an event or offer, and in between you do something called training on core skills. Core skills are, how does your front desk talk about it over the phone when people call? It is how to overcome objections when someone says, I don't really know if I need it. I don't know if I have time to commit to that 8-week treatment plan. I don't know, it's too much. Like, that's way more than I wanted to spend. How do the human beings in your clinic address those valid concerns? And what our wonderful product reps don't teach us, they spend a tiny bit on that. And they say, hey, if your patient has an objection to the price, here's what to say or do. So I have nothing against the reps, but I literally work with rep teams in order to do better in our entire fields, to say we need to give people core skills, including how do you sell without feeling like you're selling? Because people have gross money mindset issues. So that tiny bit in the middle, product knowledge, plus some focus on core skills, plus an event or offer, that revenue line is good to excellent, and it is sustainable. And the handy thing and reason why spend time on those core skills, ask for help on those core skills is because once you train them once or twice, it's set. That same skill set applies to every single thing in the clinic. So what it's doing is it's helping those people in your clinic who are teachable and coachable learn how to connect the product through an event or offer with the patient. So what I see en masse, Andrew, like 98% of all the fields, especially in medical aesthetics, I also see it in acupuncture, so on. Go online, learn, get the rep in, learn, but then only action is rewarded. So it's caused a really negative cycle in our field where people are like, wow, that sounds like a great treatment or product and it seems to be working in other clinics, but we can't get it to work here. The one footnote that also no one talks about in that formula of how to get, when we say launch a product, it's really how do you integrate a new product or treatment into your clinic? The one footnote that no one talks about is you've got to have realistic expectations as the clinic owner.
Yeah.
Not everyone on your team is going to be the champion of that new product or service. In other words, it's normal out of a team of 5 to have one who's like, yeah, I'm never recommending that. One who's on the fence, and 3 who are like, yeah, I'm willing to give it a try.
Yeah.
So you did not fail because the 2 people on your team who are, forgive the term, but underperformers, they're not as engaged. I'm just here to tell you that that's normal and you're not failing as a clinic leader.
Totally. And I would actually say that we as entrepreneurs have unrealistic expectations of how motivated we want our staff to be. You cannot expect, you're going to live and die for your business. You're going to sleep on the floor, you're going to pull your savings and pull debt. You cannot expect, your front desk staff or your injector or whatever to have that same passion for your business. It's quite literally a recipe for disaster for your own mindset, because you're just going to feel alone and disappointed, and that, the world doesn't understand you, and all this victim mentality starts to come in, right? I mean, I'm sure you've seen it before. But yeah, I think, having, you kind of lay out this really simple, like, system, if you would, right?
Yes.
Tell me about the people who are successful at adopting this system. What is their mindset going into it? What is their action? What do they do while they're actually in it? Because I'll tell you that so many people sign up for coaching, whatever, and they just expect to do nothing and get something out of it, right? Which is not quite the thing that you're signing up for if it's going to be successful. So tell me about the person who's actually successful, who works with you to work through this kind of like knowledge, core skills, and then kind of marrying it up with an event. And we'll get into the tactical execution of this and sort of these Q4 offers.
Sure.
But I'm curious to hear about the type of provider, practice owner that is successful at doing this, and describe their personality, their mindset.
Yeah, I think the best way to do that is to look at the 4 questions of the criteria that I like to measure when I decide to take on a person as a client, which is 1, is the person an expert in their field? Like, do they have some technical skill that they can offer, etc.? Not, are they a business expert? Not, do they know about websites or do they know about systems or motivating staff? But just, are they like an expert in their field? Are they real? The second part is, do they have some experience investing in resources in their business? And it could be you bought a software to keep track of things. You paid someone to do a website.
Hired a VA,
Exactly.
Yeah.
You stopped complaining about, Shopify's fees because you understand it's the cost of doing business, or get out and do it another way. But they're used to it. It's not like they are still under the myth that working with us as coaches or as consultants costs, tens and tens of thousands of dollars. So are they used to like seeking and implementing resources in their business? But the 3rd and 4th are probably the most important. 3rd is, are you a decision maker?
Yep.
Not the decision maker, because I work with a lot of clinic managers or team leads who are just like smart people. Clinic owner says, yeah, Samara's so smart, let's put her forward, right? So Or are they kind of in a phase where they're really stuck or something else is going on? Like, I have never tried to convince a client, if they're telling me finances are rough, to say, but let's still work together, we'll turn it around.
Yep.
I'll ask some questions because people don't understand the value. They've been burnt before by other people.
Yep.
But are they a decision maker? Give me an example of how you like to make decisions. Because in decision making, there's ready, aim, fire. And most people are stuck in Instagram land. Let me save this carousel to come back later. Yeah. Aim, ready, 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 ready. Some people do ready and they're at aim and they're stuck at aim, aim, aim. And I'm like, dude, fire.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is scary.
Yep.
It's scary. And that's why we're here to support or to listen around what's going on in that clinic owner's life that right now, and Q4 is a great example, they don't want to take risks. I want a low risk, give me a basic recipe, so to speak. You know, I cook, so everything's in
totally.
recipes,
Yep.
right? But like, give me a basic. This is not the time like I want to try a new recipe. I just need some basics in place. Other people make decisions and they're like, ready, aim, fire, 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 fire. So people execute and take action more once we start working together. They feel more confident, they feel safer, but they also have a more complete story. And I'm just going to go back to your other question. The other mistake I see people making, Andrew, is not understanding that the success stories that you and I can share from our clients, and especially on Instagram, you're not seeing the whole picture. So for example, right now, a lot of people in Q4 are seeing clinics host events. Come on by, there's like catered food, there's flowers, there might even be beverages, and they're feeling a lot of pressure. So they say the should question, should I be doing an event? I see all these other people doing an event. And I'm just telling you, I've been here for 24 years, looking behind the curtain to tell you what the revenue was. Was it even worth them doing it? Seeing the numbers. The clinic staff that you see on Instagram, they all have the same scrubs. They all have the matching coffee cups. They all have like matching pens. They're all like amazing. And you think, dang, that team's really got it together. No, they don't. Literally, no, they don't. So the question isn't, wow, how do I get my team to look that way? You assume harmony. Well, every workplace has harmony, disharmony. Statistically, and that's why we've been around as long as I have, statistically, you know what the challenges are in that team. But I truly have less than 1%, even in working with them for years, who say, yep, it's all smooth and it doesn't need attention. And we all just somehow get along and we're besties and we go for drinks. So the job is, when you see that, ask better questions to say, I wonder what the challenges on that team are. Because let me tell you, even if you have 3 superstars, you have challenges with those superstars. So a different mindset. So are they an expert in their field? Do they have some practice applying resources to their business and trying new things? Are they a decision maker? And then the last one is hands down the most important, which is, are you teachable and coachable?
100%.
Are you willing to try some new things, some new ways?
Can I ask you?
Yeah, like, you know, Andrew, when someone comes into a coaching relationship because they want to tell you all the things they've tried and how great it is, I like to leave room for that. But then my question is, how can I help you? Which is a trick question because they often don't know. Because
Yeah,
to
they
know
don't. You're right.
help with, you'd need to know what's getting in the way.
Right.
And that is where we use a process. It's called the RCI 3-step process. Know yourself, know your team or network, and then work towards the goal. So if you're starting at your goal without some insights of what problem are we addressing here? The problem is never email marketing. The problem is never the website. It's never your staff or not know. It's never not knowing your finances if you're into that kind of thing or what to offer. It's always something else. And I think our skill is, and I am a certified coach, but I'm also like a bona fide consultant. I'm not like a rep turned consultant. Sorry, reps. Like this is it, right? Is that we really can get much quicker to the root of what's happening, help that person feel supported, not excited, supported. It's a whole other energy. So I loved your question to say, what is their personality? What is their mindset? Well, it is the more relaxed energy. So what I tend to hear after like 2-3 weeks is, I'm so much more relaxed. I'm not as panicked, like I'm missing out. So the
Right.
mistakes that people make are they try to think that they need to be the business expert. They hire people and team members or let's say a social media person to help them, but they really don't allow them to do the job because they haven't practiced the skill of working with someone who can deliver those things. So they think I'm a burden for asking my own team to help me, and they end
Mm.
up doing lots themselves. They really misunderstand marketing altogether in the clinic and outside the clinic.
Yep.
So they end up in a bit of a desperate energy doing a ton of trial and error.
Yep.
And I mean, also,
Wasted
for example,
emotion, wasted
so
time,
much
wasted
wasted energy
everything,
and
you
money
know?
and
Yeah.
time. And if somebody likes that learning process, fine. But I had a client who had, I'm going to call it what she said was a disastrous relationship with someone who was supposed to help with their web and
Oh,
social media,
we've heard all of these, and
right?
I'm sure
Disastrous.
I'm a story out there for somebody too, for
I
for
don't
that
know. I doubt it,
matter.
but disastrous.
Yeah.
And they quickly found someone else because they
Yep.
still need a website and they still need social done. They quickly found someone new. And guess what? We're having the same issues. So we just said, let's slow the roll for a minute.
Yep.
And really, this relationship is a space for someone skilled to ask the questions. And I said, tell me what happened in this last relationship. What went wrong? What do you wish would have happened? And what did you learn from that big disaster? What are your insights?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when she said the insights, I said, what steps have you taken to make sure that those 3 insights are implemented? And she's honest. She says, I haven't, but you're right. So we just paused for a minute to make a list to say, number 1, ask for a timeline of when will the first draft be ready? What's your estimation within a week or 2 of when it would go live? And
Yep.
help us pre-plan some ideas to make a big deal out of this web launch because that was something that mattered to them. And we don't go through that cycle. And I
Yeah.
really just want to reassure people, you're not supposed to know how to do that cycle by yourself. Even if you're listening to this, you're supposed to raise
Especially
your
the
hand
first
and
time.
say, yeah. And sometimes not even the second, third, or fourth time.
Yeah.
So what I tell my client to help bring a more calm down, relaxed energy, I still need you to work hard, but working hard calmly will help, is that the majority of my clients over the course of a 20 or 25-year clinic, whether it's a solo practitioner or a larger group, they have an average of 8 websites in 20 to 25 years. For
I
real.
never knew that. That's insane. I never knew that, and now that I know that, it actually I just took on a client who had to consolidate 4 websites to 1 website. It
Wow.
was crazy, and
Now,
there were 3 different developers, 2 different hosting companies, GoDaddy, this other thing. It was just like,
that's right. And I get it because I too, if I wanted something to succeed, and I know people like to call their businesses their babies, but I think like all family relations should be kind of kept out of business so we can help it. But I
yeah,
get it, Andrew. Like I too am like desperate for this or that. Like true story, I was making our Thanksgiving dinner and I had everything all done. And I mean, things are cooking in the oven and on the
yep,
stove. And literally, I think 2 hours before my guests arrived, I'm just thinking, I'm having so much fun getting to do this cooking and host, which I love doing.
yep.
And I just want it to be so great for everyone. And then all of a sudden, somehow I veered off into, I've always wanted to make an apple and sausage style stuffing because it's different from mine.
I
And I've
I I
learned,
have my moments there too, but
right?
and I think my wife and daughter think I'm nuts, but,
Right? But the
I
minute
get
that
it.
someone's website is done, as an example,
Yep.
the minute that they even engage the person in the contract, that arc of motivation's already on the way down.
Yeah.
And I
I
just want people
experienced
to
that a
know it's
lot, yeah.
normal, right? So
Yeah.
your client, who I love that story, but I already know is my expertise is knowing what that poor human being went through and trying to take those 4 things and now trying to get you to put it all together, which I
Yep.
know you will. Because my job is not to judge that person for the 4 sites and everything, all the time and money and energy that they wasted. But my questions to them is, all these 4 websites and everything it took until Andrew's come to finally help you as an expert, is what did that cost you? And I don't just mean financially. Financially, I'm interested. But what else does it cost you? What's been the impact of juggling those 4 things? And what are you hoping that this one thing will do? And can you even articulate that, right?
Yeah,
Because
and I
sometimes,
always say, and this is quite literally the spiel I give when I meet every new client or potential client, is there are no silver bullets in marketing, especially in today's day and age. It is a process, it's a pipeline that needs to be built. It's not there are no silver bullets when it comes to it. And actually, the one question I have for you, and I do want to get into the Q4 stuff, into some of the tactics, but this is, I think, we can sort of segue into it from here. I find this. So we just talked. What you just gave an example of is the extremely motivated DIYer, maybe a little bit ADHD, right? That just takes too much action, right? Without maybe thinking first. But I meet certainly a bunch of those, right? But the other part of it are I call it the folks who have this huge gap between intention and time, right? It's like, and they want to get all these things done, and they know that they have to be I want my website to sound a certain way, but I need to be involved in it, right? Great. We love it when the owner is engaged, but then they don't show up for that meeting. They don't do the review of the
no,
website, right? And inevitably, their motivation at that point just completely kind of drops off because they don't have the time, or that, at least that's the excuse that I hear. I'm busy. I got to see patients. I got to do this. I got to, it's life, right? For those folks out there who may go out, buy all the coaching courses, do nothing with it, right? Do you work with folks like that to close those gaps, or are those folks just completely hopeless?
no, we do close the gap.
Hmm.
The first group, by the way, I call the overfunctioners. And what's interesting is even a person who's overfunctioning, when it comes to hiring, even like us, but we don't really have a coaching program per se. You're literally working with me. That's it. So take it or leave it, although I have a great team. But even those overfunctioners, the dream, Andrew, for every clinic owner I've ever worked with is a question, which is, can't I just hire this out?
Yep. Silver
Can't I
bullet.
just hire it out? I'm really good. Insert your specialty.
Yep.
Nurse, injector, physician, chiropractor, physio, wellness, acupuncture. I'm like, that's what and I literally hear, and I quote, I did not sign up to need to be this business person. So the big question is, can't I just hire this out? And it is a short answer, depending how you see life, glass half full, half empty. I'll start with the empty first. No, you can't. You still have to do some of it yourself. Or, yes, you can, ... and you still need some of it to do yourself. Yes, you can, and you still need to do some of it yourself. And then, because we teach you to ask better questions, say, wonderful. Good news, it's my business, so I am willing to do some of it myself. And that's where you and I have had this conversation, Andrew, so we don't stress out anyone in your audience. It is the fault of the entire digital industry. You know how you all explain it's a partnership, this and that, whatever. I think it needs to be contractually written, not how we all write it now, which is, the client will review all drafts and give feedback, right? Regardless if your kids have baseball, hockey, and piano, or you have to pick up your dog from the whatever. It should actually have an exact time, which is, I'll give you an example. We will do this work and we need 2 hours or 45 minutes or 3 hours of your time per week in phase 1. After phase 1, 45 minutes a week. And
Yep.
ongoing, we need an hour per month, which gets scheduled and there you have a choice. Do they have to go in your schedule, like the last week of every month? Or do they have to go in some other schedule? So I think there's been a misunderstanding and lack of clarity, not just the vague, I need your input. My clients know exactly how much time they need to give this relationship. So they might have a call for an hour, but I tell them, and ask them and help them set up a system where they're blocking time in their calendar to do some work. And we don't actually care if the work gets done or not, because we know there's such a positive correlation to doing productivity and calendar management, which is the skill that underlies getting things done. That we cannot fit this in at 3:55 after seeing your last patient, that they're
Let's be
also that they're
realistic.
a
Yeah.
real human being. So we call it CEO time. And for many of our clients, the first question we ask when we teach those skills, which you call systems is just a fancy word for tell me how things work around here, right?
Yep.
Tell me a method if I were joining your team, like, or joining your life, what this would look like. And for many of them, their CEO time is on a Saturday or a Sunday.
That's right.
And the first question we ask isn't, okay, what's your priority task? The first question is, when you're finished this CEO time, not the tasks, the time, how will you reward yourself? Andrew, people are so bad at this. It's okay, we're here to help.
I couldn't answer that. Honestly, I couldn't answer that either, to be honest with you.
But okay, let's try it in a second.
Yeah.
You're so bad at it, and everyone's because nobody taught us. It's not your fault. It's not, nobody taught us this model to go, wait a minute, I thought I was supposed to suffer through my work. Well, please, if we're competing for like getting admiration and acceptance and even love for suffering, I vote me and my family. Okay? In my family, that's how I was raised. Suffering was literally like glorified. Hardship, struggling through, because that's for my people. That is my ancestry.
Yeah.
So it didn't matter that you accomplished. It did kind of matter. But gosh, if you suffered and overcame hardship, guess what? I think I made a lot of my own hardship.
Yeah.
And it was not until I had a coach and mentor a few years later that it's like, wow, Ildi, you're really taking the long way around. I'm like, yeah, because I literally waiting for them to show up with my award for figuring out myself, which looking at my clock, it's been 8 years and I can't figure it out. I don't have the result I want. So we actually had to make a sheet to help people access the part of their brain that says, here's what I find rewarding. So examples would be, when I'm finished this CEO time, I'm getting up and doing the loop of my neighborhood. When I finish my CEO time, I'm going to set a timer and scroll on my phone to look up new stuffing recipes, new sourdough recipes, watching kittens that I want to adopt for 20 minutes. For other people, they want to clean up their desk, like just this corner, because it's a disaster over here. For other people, they want to download music. They want to go online and shop. So how will you reward yourself, right? And so it needs to be a laughably small action. So just think about it, Andrew. If before we started this podcast, I asked you, hey, let's pretend this was your first podcast. Like, you're very experienced at this, but it doesn't matter. Is to say before you started, if I said to you, what will you do right after this recording to reward yourself? Think of something in your environment or day that feels like a reward. What would it be for you?
It probably has something to do with golf. I have a golf course next to my house and probably just hit a few balls at the driving range or something like that. That's actually what the first thought that came to my mind when you mentioned it. Yeah.
Exactly. But you're going to find 16 reasons to not do that and reward yourself, but push through. And what we know is that when you give yourself that reward, you have a different entrance into the task. But the other thing we do is we do invest time in saying your CEO time needs to be in a spot that is conducive to you. Do you want to know what the number one thing our clients say? Like, to set themselves up in a pleasurable or enjoyable environment to have that CEO time? I'll give you the top 2 answers. Take a guess what they are.
A walk or some TV shows, media related?
You're close with a walk. The number 1 answer is a coffee shop. So where
interesting.
would you go? Yeah, where would you go? So people put their earbuds on, they have music, and they also have like their favorite beverage. A lemonade, strawberry thing in the summer, a lot
sure.
in the winter. So they feel like, set yourself up. The second biggest one, interestingly, has become what I call a library, which is a quiet spot. So my client literally said, I'm going to set up every 2 weeks my CEO time, because for her, every 2 weeks was more realistic than my other client, which was once a week. And she actually went to her library, which she hasn't been to in 11 years, but she drives by it. This is a clinic in California.
Cool.
She went in, and now, like when I was a kid, there was no beverages or food in the library, but now you can take in a drink. So
Oh,
she picked up a drink, went to the library to these, she calls it a quiet room. She had her time, she had her earbuds, but what was really cool is afterward, her reward was just browsing the shelves. Her kids are grown and gone, but browsing the shelves for a period of time. She is very creative and into design. She's got an artistic eye. Like, go and look at the design books for no reason. Flip through them. Another one said at Starbucks, they have like a bookstore that's attached and they have magazines. And he said, I'm illegally flipping through the magazines, golf magazines, the skateboarding magazines, because that is awesome. And what we find is a real behavioral correlation and a rhythm where even if you did this once per quarter, and we do offer quarterly support for clinics, even ones that don't work with us in our core services. Every clinic owner should be supported and learn once in their lifetime. How do some people do quarterly planning that slightly sets them up better so they can like literally sleep at night, enjoy their life a bit more?
yeah. No, I think that's a great segue into what I really wanted to talk about today, which is I was literally going to send an email to our email list telling our clients, like, hey, we're in quarter 4 now. If you haven't started planning, you're probably late. But hey, Black Friday's coming up. All these things are coming up. And I
Yeah.
decided to hold off on writing that email until we recorded this episode because, I figured you probably have some insight here. Q4 and we do a lot of marketing in Q4, no doubt about it. It's one of our busiest times of the year. Um, you kind of talk about this avoidable Q4 promo mistake that a lot of clinics
Yeah.
make. And I talked about it in my intro a little bit about you're not looking at the unit economics. It has an impact on cash flow, even potential perception around the quality of your brand, right? And training people to wait for discounts. But what do you see as kind of the single biggest like profit eroding mistake that aesthetic and wellness practices make during the holiday season? And what should they do instead?
Yeah, it's a great question. One thing I want to say, because we don't believe in like ahead and behind over here, is you could be 30 days out or 2 weeks out from Q4 planning and still put a plan in place and still execute it and win.
Cool.
Yes, you started 10 feet before the finish line. So you're going to get a reward accordingly. But there is like, if somebody's
Right.
listening to this, honest to goodness, you still do have time. I promise. Unless there are calendar police around that I don't know about who are watching. I'm just going to say too, I did a Q3 plan. So at the end of June, I planned for July, August, and September. But guess what, friends? The best thing about a plan is being ready when things don't go according to plan.
Yep.
Well, I had a staff member who made a $33,000 mistake. So we needed to
Mm.
part ways. And that impacted my business huge. It was not
Yeah.
according to plan. Like, it happens. This is life over here. I know what life is. It just didn't. So my beautiful plan that I finished on June 26th for July 1 to September 30th completely needed to shift. It
Right.
took me a little bit of time to emotionally recover from the disappointment,
Sure.
hiring another person, shift it. And I didn't get around to my Q3 plan, I think, until the end of July, maybe the beginning of August. And it still worked out fine. Did I get everything done? Absolutely not. I didn't get a few key things done that even me, a real experienced business person, I'm like, we need another plan. But I learned to build capacity and trust myself, which is what we are building and helping our clients with. Promotions and offers and all that around your clinic, your menu, your pricing, all that's easy to figure out. It's like
Mhm.
deceptively easy, but it's this other part that's hard. So there's still time. The biggest mistake I see is people getting overly creative and trying to do a Q4 makeover. So if people want to know what to do instead, how do you make significantly or even slightly more money in Q4? Well, number one answer is use what you have. This is not the time to get creative and put the things to, this is not the time to rearrange the furniture in the house, put up the wallpaper, This is not the time. Now, if you're like, well, who are you? Okay, great. It's a really good question. I don't know why you're finding, Andrew, but my clients are exceptionally creative. And some of them are, this is so hard to say, but they're bored. They're like, oh, it's uninteresting. This acupuncture package, boring, yawn. I'm bored with it. So my patients must be bored with it.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, I think the problem is that sometimes they make these offers that are way too complicated to
Yes.
message. That's one part, is the marketing side of messaging. If it's a BOGO, it's a BOGO. No, everyone knows what that is. But if you're like, oh, if you buy two, you get one of these plus this, like you
Yeah.
cannot message that from a marketing
You
perspective.
can't. But let's explain from our perspective why. Because the bigger cognitive load
Yep.
you give a patient, the more you make me think and do math in my head, like a grade 5 math textbook problem where the train left at 60 miles per hour carrying 30 people. It had 4 stops and they stopped at 3:30. How many apples did they eat?
Yeah.
I cannot.
Yeah.
The
No, me
more we
neither.
make that patient have to think and decide and compare and calculate, the more sunk we are. So
100%.
use what you have, and what sells best are best sellers. So everyone asks me, Ildi, like, you make huge revenue for your clinics, and huge could be $5,000 or $500,000 through one event. And an event could be an evening, an afternoon, maximum 3 days. Okay. How do you do it? Because we take their best sellers because we know they sell best. So the number one question I get about what should we offer for a holiday package or Q4 package or this time of year in Q4 is best sellers sell best. So sell your best sellers. And if you want to dress it up, then put a jingle bell on it or put something on. But you do not need to get as creative.
Don't
Creativity,
reinvent the wheel, right?
Exact-
Like there's no need to.
in fact,
If they bought it
this-
before, they'll buy it now, right? Yeah.
absolutely. And I promise you they're not bored with it. If you feel like, oh, well, actually, Ildi, I have a small patient base who comes to see me regularly, so you're wrong. They might actually be bored. Number one, I have some questions for you to provide proof that's not enough, that your bestseller is not enough to get people in. But dude, like, if it's your bestseller, so why are you asking me that your bestseller got that way because people still want it? But let's call it your bread and butter.
Yeah. If it's like
Right?
like Botox, for example, like that might be the best time to offer a 10-pack special. You get a bunch of revenue up front for services that haven't been provided, right? And if
Exactly.
it is a bestseller, they're going to want to re-up on it. And they're already conditioned in a lot of ways during Q4.
And do you
I'm
wanna
going to
know my
spend a lot
evidence?
more money,
No.
you know?
The evidence, Andrew, is you're calling it a bestseller. If
Yeah.
it's your sunk seller, if you're like,
Yeah.
wow, Botox really isn't selling like before,
Yeah.
or we're not keeping enough, A, I agree. And B, let's look at it. So the creativity outlet, the channel for all this energy that you have to make something more interesting, I would suggest either get creative with what we call gifts with purchase, which is adding value, or get creative with an add-on. And add-ons by far this year and next year will be money makers for everyone. So I had both a med spa and an acupuncture clinic that I can think of top of mind who did this. One has a patient base of about 3,000. The acupuncture one, I would say between 300 and 500.
Yeah.
Both did add-ons. And I love an add-on, Andrew, because it allows choice and agency for the patient using what the clinic already has. A couple of footnotes that they don't post on Instagram are, don't sell your underperforming products and treatments. This is not the time to go, oh, we bought this device or we bought this thing. Let's try and sell it. If it wasn't selling before, don't add garbage onto your great bestsellers. So, like, really think about that. Really think about
the add-ons. I
Modest.
always love the idea of add-ons because it actually exposes them to another sort of product line that maybe they may not have been
That's right.
willing to take on their own, which gives them kind of awareness
Right.
of that, right? And gives you an opportunity to continue the sale on. So
And I think I want people to ask themselves the one question: how can I increase the surface area of what my patients see around this type of time of year? How can I increase the surface area of what my existing patients, and that's a really important one, existing patients
Yep.
see, or existing clients see this time of year, and trust the principle that best sellers sell best. People are getting really over competitive, over doing events in particular because of what they see through mainly social media.
Yeah.
And your core
Right.
patients who will take advantage of these offers, they are your core patients. That's the biggest block, meaning most of your revenue from that, like call me in December, call me at the end of October, like do this for a week. And if we break down your revenue and I say, how much of this money came from patients who already knew you and how many came from brand new ones, it will be 80, minimum 80% to
Yep.
maximum 90% of our existing patients, and maybe 1%, maybe,
Yep.
who will be brand new.
Uh,
So
in
put your effort
marketing,
toward your
we
existing
always,
patients.
yeah, right. And in marketing, we always say the acquisition cost for an upsell to an existing customer is 0, right? And so, like, you got to remember that you're going to generate the highest ROI from your marketing efforts from your existing customers, which is why email tends to be the highest ROI channel, because it didn't cost you really anything to acquire that email address if you got it organically. And you're able to continue marketing to it over and over and over again without having to spend any money, right? And as long as you put things in there that are valuable, you're not going to burn out that email list.
Yeah.
I want to be mindful of our time, and you mentioned a few things about, keeping things simple, right? Focusing on your best sellers, right? Don't reinvent the wheel. Use add-ons if you really want to get creative, which can potentially open up doors for revenue in other places. I love the idea of events. I've always, and I teach marketing to a lot of nurse practitioners who just have no knowledge about marketing and just want to kind of understand the basics of it, right? And when they ask, inevitably the ones that are starting out, right, that don't have funds to invest in marketing, I usually tell them, like, a lot of times what you have to do is you've got to use your network and build community sort of offline to get your
Mhm.
first sort of patients. And we're talking about like practices that have already established themselves, and they're making their investments already.
Yeah.
But I bring that up because events are, a lot of these are local businesses, right? And they're fixtures in their community. And I think events are some of the best ways to bring the community together. Um, how could maybe a smaller or even solopreneur, right, or solo practice be able to plan and execute like a successful event without having to break the bank, take a ton of risk with it up front, right? What's your sort of method to doing this? Because events are obviously a big part of sort of the methodology and the framework that you're kind of putting together here.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. I love what you said about so many clinics being the pillar and foundation in their communities to support people in their wellness. Um, some of my favorite success stories are for the solo practitioner or smaller clinic
I want to hear
and
those. Yeah,
yeah,
that's the one I want to
plus
hear. Yeah,
they
yeah.
hate doing events. It's not that they're not social, but they're like, really, I'm not really an event person.
Yep.
So I'm like, great. So first of all, you don't need to do one. I swear, it's like Black Friday. People are like, well, once a year, I think for the past 4 years, I've done the same social media post, which is whether you do a Black Friday promotion or sale or not, it really doesn't matter. You're really not going to look back in your business and go, I am positive that in 2025, if we had done a Black Friday promo, it would have saved this all. It just doesn't happen.
Yep.
And
No
my
silver
proof,
bullets.
no, we call it the magic pill. There's no
Yeah.
magic pill. But there is also Black Friday in July. So if you change your mind, you still have time.
Mm.
Get creative, get into proximity with people who have ideas like this, and in proximity where we can share what are others doing directly with the community or through someone like us. My absolute favorite story, and I'll use medical aesthetics as an example. I'll use acupuncture in a minute as an example as well. A solo practitioner has an assistant, I think 4 hours a week, who helps with some admin, but often isn't on site. And
Okay.
she would attend we did a master class the Q4, how to create profitable Q4 offers and events. She attended it, I think, for 3 years in a row. The last year she attended it on her vacation. She texted me and said, that was awesome. I took 5 pages of notes. Why am I telling you that, Andrew? Because before, the notes don't count. It's what she does with the notes. So I want to highlight to people, it took her until the 3rd or 4th year to implement those notes, and that's okay. If we want to cry about, quote, money on the table, fine. Doesn't matter. It's okay. You sometimes need to hear it over and over again. So we got into one of our services. If people do want help, we have short-term services if you need the help now. Q4, we have a few offers that I'm sure people can learn through our website or through you. Just step forward. Bottom line, send me a DM and ask.
Yeah.
So she stepped forward, and it's basically a 30-day revenue boost. And she said, I just don't feel like I can do events like these big clinics, even the smaller clinics. I'm basically by myself. And I said to her, fine. If you were to host an event, what would it look like and what do you wish would happen? Walk me through. And she said, I don't even know. And I said, great. Well, when you see these big events and you think about you doing one, what literally scares you to death? And she said, everybody arriving at once. Like, I would be so overwhelmed. She's also very introverted. So I said, great. Well, if they didn't have to arrive all at once, how would they arrive? And that got the ideas flowing. She said, I'd love to have an event because I said, what's your ideal number? She said, I'd love 15 people. Why 15? Because that's what I could fit into my space and feels manageable. I'd love 5 people to arrive at half-hour intervals. So one group arrives at noon, next at 12:30, next one at 1 o'clock. And I asked her, super, what makes that important to you? She said, because I want to greet every single one of my guests. And I want to give them what we call the promo sheet, which we teach you how to write.
Yep.
I'm literally talking on a piece of paper that you could print off, but if you want to get fancy, you can print it on a card. She said, I want to greet each guest personally, and I want to give them this thing into your hand because I get it. And tell them, here's what we have today. Because what people need to understand about events, whether they're physical or virtual, you could have digital events, is it isn't a party, although it might feel that way to your guests. These are buying events. And that buying opportunity you're giving that patient is to thank them for one thing and one thing only, which is their loyalty, not their exclusivity, their loyalty. Thank you for being my client. Thank you for being my patient. I don't care that you come to see me once every 2 years or twice a month. That's what it is. And so when people say, should I be discounting? I say it is nice to offer something by way of a savings or added value to your patients once per year. I think it's absolutely fine. And I think the people who say never discount, it cheapens it, wrong. I'll show you my revenue in the millions of my clients.
It's strategic. No, it's discounting, and and if anything, like I never like discounting to like the new patient, right? But it's like to an existing customer for loyalty, like that's a
100%.
hey, thanks,
Yeah.
and
So
that
it's
makes
a buying
sense,
event.
right?
Yeah, it's a buying event. So that's what that sheet
Yeah.
represented to her. So
Nice.
I'd love a small group that I could personally greet and tell them, here's what's today, including like there's some beverages and help yourself.
Yeah.
And I said, what else? What else did you get from masterclass? And she said, so actually a bit embarrassing if people don't listen to the context, but we call it the sidewalk sale table or the garage sale table. In every single clinic since the beginning of time, big and small, from my 8 plastic surgeons together to my tiny, tiny physio who works by himself, okay? Exists things in the form of products that you brought into your clinic because you thought they would sell, but they're not. And it is worth having a small area with a small sign that says, save 50%. Nothing less than 40. We're talking sidewalk sale, garage sale. I'm like, just for the heck of it, because they're throwing that product in the garbage because it's expiring.
Yep.
It's not moving. And why 50%? Because it's a 50% markup. So something you sold for $50, you bought it for $25. So sell it on the sidewalk sale table for $25. People like it. And it's strategic because it's buying energy. I mean, P.S., I love a garage sale, or what do they call them now?
Yeah, especially when you
Yard
walk
sale.
out, it was like, I can't believe I got it for this much,
I totally feel like I'm a winner too, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, I
It's a
got
game
this book
almost,
for 50
Yeah.
cents, right? Like,
Yeah.
I love it. Anyway, it's buying energy.
Yeah.
But what she did was I said, well, listen, why can't you have a 15-person event? They RSVP to arrive at 3 different times, and then you can greet them. You can do this. You can say, help yourself to some flavored water. We've got a few refreshments, and I'd love to catch up with you. Excuse me while I go to greet Marcus or go to greet Jennifer.
Yep.
Well, guess what?
Yeah.
She did it.
Totally. Yeah.
She did it. She's like, you're right. Guess what? I think I'm going to do it this year. So she did it. She had her highest, she'd been in business 17 years. She had her highest revenue month ever.
Awesome.
And she did it in January.
Oh, really?
When everybody is crying that there's no sales, there's no patients,
I love
everybody
that.
has
Yeah.
spent their money, blah, blah, blah.
Sure.
Okay. So it was just over $30,000 for her was her biggest revenue month. She works part-time in her clinic as a solo person. But now what she's done, Andrew, and she did it in January, is probably 8 of those 15 said, are you having one again this year? So new problem. And good news, she gets to decide if she wants to, doesn't want to. But now those people are ready to buy digitally. Although she tends to have the kind of community, again, I love how you put it. They're like a neighborhood place and
Yeah.
people want to come in and visit. Well, now she's built her capacity. She knows that if she plans an event, a piano's not going to fall from the sky and kill her. So she said, I actually kind of think I might try the 3-day model where people can just stop by.
Yeah. Roll
And I
in.
do
Yeah.
want to say, because I do like to be fully transparent, is she had 2 young people come in to help her on that day. One was her 4-hour admin a week person to just greet, pick up some cups, say welcome, like be at the door. And then a friend of that person to just, because we say with events, you need 3 times the amount of time you think to plan. You need sometimes, depending on the style of event, twice the money. But you really need helping hands and your staff aren't often enough. So my acupuncture clinic, they did add-ons. They did an add-on event. She doesn't want people in the clinic. She did an add-on event for a week and said, only to the patients because she has clients booked. She has patients booked. So it was a way to boost revenue with the patients she's already seeing, with inventory and services and treatments she already has. That worked so well where 87% of the people already coming in went for a modest add-on. Modest add-on for her services because she charges $90, really reasonable. It's just not a ton of margin, but $90. The add-ons were between nothing less than $25 and nothing more than $50 because she
nice.
already had it.
Yeah.
Now, behind the scenes, if you said what went well, she would have told you. She's like, this was the lowest lift thing I ever had to do. And she said, I didn't need to be social. I just got to see my patients. But that's a reality, right?
A couple
but the
takeaways.
Other thing she said is, like, she built her capacity to then run it again for a month when she didn't have booked patients and said, if you book in, you can choose to have these add-ons. And it worked again.
Yeah. So a takeaway for this is, and again, it's like if you're a smaller practice or a solo practice owner, it's really important that you maybe cater the event to like who you are, which kind of going back to your original like kind of coaching moment, which is like you got to know who you are, right? I'm an introvert. I don't like to deal with gigantic crowds at once, and this idea of like 15-minute increments of people coming in is brilliant, I think. But it's going to be slightly different for everybody depending on who you are, right? And so there's no, again, magic pill, silver bullet, or whatever. Like you've got to think a little bit and get a little bit creative to do. We call these activations in marketing, right? To activate, that list and to get folks through the door. But and actually, you mentioned earlier that it doesn't matter if you're a week before Black Friday or whatever, just expect like less results, right? I think that's a really great way to frame it. I have a feeling out there, and a lot of them are my clients right now, that there's a lot of practice owners who are probably winging it when it comes to like what's for quarter 4, right? To close out the year strong. And seeing that we're kind of like 2 official weeks, and we're recording this kind of in the middle of October right now, but seeing that we're kind of officially into Q4, um, if you are feeling like you're winging it as a practice owner and you don't want to wing it again this year, what should you do?
Yeah. I think if you have the ability to self-coach, do that and find out what's working and what you want to do. But otherwise, I would say work with someone like us, work
Hmm.
with someone like you who knows someone like us
Yep.
to say, um, how can I explore doing this differently this year?
Hmm.
Because you're going to get fast tracked. So this time of year, we always pick partners, and I know we've selected you to work with. We offer a service called 30-Day Revenue Booster. We only offer it once per year, and we have limited spots. And by limited spots, I literally mean 16 spots that would be available here. And once they're gone, they're gone. And I would love to offer them at other times
Yeah.
of the year, but it sometimes doesn't work out. So
Hmm.
there's people who want the short-term help now because you've got lots of time in Q4, lots of time. And so I know you're going to provide details in the show notes for how people can access it. Is it all right to talk about price, Andrew?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Please.
so it's
Everyone would love to know.
$199. It's $199. Like, that's ridiculous. So, um, if and I do want to say around your earlier questions, what is the mindset of somebody? If you have an objection to $199, which you should question it and say, hey, what do I get? But if you have an objection to it, then number 2 in the criteria of the clients we work with, which is, are you practiced at investing some resources into your business? The answer would be no. I can't afford to spend $50 a week. So 30-day revenue boost is $199 USD. And you work with me for 30 days. We start with a call that assesses what's going on. What is the biggest priority that we could help with to actually bring revenue in, like money into the cash register? The one task that you need to do before that takes about 15 minutes. Some people finish it in 5. And it's a questionnaire with the questions we know to ask to make the most of our time on that first call. You leave that call calm and clear on what your next steps are to bring in revenue that are actually doable. So email marketing is a great example where it isn't actually writing the email that is sometimes the challenge. It's your database, or who do I even send it to, questions like that. So we address those things first because sending the email part is actually the easiest. But you leave that call with a plan of what you're going to do. And this is the main thing. Using what you already have, Andrew, is the key. We're not going to invent something new. It might feel new and exciting to you and your patients, but I promise you, we're not adding anything in. And that's what makes it feel doable. The more doable it feels, the more likely you are to take action. Then we agree, hey, this is what you're going to try over the next week or 2. And I coach you along the way in real time. So you get access to me in a platform where you can message me, you can leave me a voice note. As you know, Andrew, I'm very responsive and have great
Yep.
follow-up. But I'm walking beside you to help you implement, to help you deal with whatever comes up. And then we end the month with, how did it go? Although I'll be honest, we don't wait till the end to see how it went. Usually somebody is telling us, hey, this part's working well. This part feels like a dead end. We adjust as we go. We don't wait the
Yeah.
month to see how did it go. And what I'm saying is we have a wrap-up call where you get to celebrate your small wins, which could include lessons and should include lessons. But you're going to walk away from that 30 days with something you got to safely experiment with using what you have. And I will show you the ways to build on it next year through your whole practice. So it isn't a magic marketing pill. It isn't a magic clinic operations or systems pill. It is trying something and getting insights that work. And I will say that the vast majority have success with it. And it gives you a sense of confidence to go, oh, I get it. We're not working on new problems. We're working on existing problems in new ways. The
Yep.
reaction to this, when people start to get a result very quickly, are like, why didn't anybody tell me this? Like, why isn't this taught? I get that from a lot of physicians in medical school, a lot of nurses, a lot of practitioners in the wellness field. And the reality is, right or wrong, it's up to you to find people you energetically think you
That's
fit
right.
with, you like their style, you like your tone. There are thousands of people who do what you and I do.
Totally.
Find a person you believe, you think you could trust. And I will say, in this day and age, it's a personal opinion, you need to work with a coach who says you're going to work with me, not put into 18 learning modules or work with my team. It
Yep.
needs to be a one-to-one process. After that, you can look to some other resources.
Yep.
But I think if people really want to accelerate, take the spots. We're happy to hear from anyone in your community.
Yeah. No, I'll put some information in the show notes about the 30-day revenue boost. It's $199. You get some specialized sort of like very focused one-on like time with Ildi. And I think I love these sort of projects where there's a very defined start and end date to it. There's a clear goal. It's not a look. It's $200, okay? And I'm gonna say it for LD, like if you're not gonna invest $200 to try and grow some revenue for your business, you should think about whether or not you want to be in business or not, you know? And also when you buy these things, you got to think about them as revenue generators, not cost centers. This is supposed to generate more than $200 in revenue for you. You got
And
to
it will.
adopt that mindset, you know?
Yeah, it will. It will. I don't think we've ever had anyone who hasn't. For people who already know, like
And it's
hearing
$200.
this,
It's easy to generate $200 in revenue. Come on, this is a
I'm
great
afraid you're
value,
about
you
to
know?
wipe your credit card. Like
I know,
it's not.
right?
It's not for us. Every time our team and I bring it forward once a year around this time of year, we say the same thing. We're like, this is so good. But listen, I have interest in this as well. I want to meet the people who need the help. I
Yeah.
want to meet those of you who like you've had a struggle, you've hit a dead end road. Unfortunately, sometimes many of you have had a bad consulting or
Yep.
coaching
It's a great
relationship.
way to kind of like start
Pretty low
off with
risk.
somebody low
Yeah.
risk, right? Like they can see what you're about, what you're made of, right? Like what you're
Yeah.
saying here matches to what you actually do. And I think a lot of what we have to do is like every time I have to sort of say I'm not like the other ones, you know. And we
Exactly.
have, and then look, that's just the nature of the work that we're in, the industry that we're in. But you know, Ildi, I'll obviously talk to our community about your 30-day revenue boost, and there's sort of two 30-day sort of sprints until the end of the year, right? So let's see if we can get some folks in there for you. But also, you've been nice enough to share like a quarter 4 kind of like readiness checklist that I thought
Yes.
was great and actually very simple, easy to understand. And it kind of helps the audience and the folks who are listening here to plan their end of year promotions with a little more clarity and confidence and cash flow. You know, some of the topics that we touched on today. I'll provide, you know, links to all of that in the show notes. And when I email this out to our, you know, to our email list, I'll share that with them. But just real quick, talk a little bit about this checklist and sort of like what it can do and sort of why you might want to why
Yeah.
you might want to access it.
I'm so glad you asked, and I'm grateful you're willing to provide it to your community. So at Results Continuum, we are known for our business tools. So it's not like a mindset shift. It's going to be a mindset tool. It's going to be an operational tool. So our tools are epic. It literally means that after you learn something, hopefully just like today, you can click and print something off. And I love a checklist because I'm a busy person. So the checklist is literally that, categories of things I'd love you to be thinking about in Q4. Now, the checklist, friends, for the high accomplishing people, the driven people, is not intended for you to check each one off. It's like what I call my standing grocery list. I printed off this template off the internet that says by categories in the grocery store, here's all the things. We don't need avocados every week. We don't need navy beans every week. But the fact that someone put it on a list and said navy beans, right, I haven't made that bean salad in a long time, bang. So all it is, friends, is what I've learned in 25 years in the clinic world of things that if we work together, I would say, hey, in August, these are the things I'd love you to be thinking about roughly September to December that you may want to consider. So you are not intended to do them all. You're intended to think about them all. So an example would be, like you said, an event. You may decide to do one. Great. Follow the items under it. But you may also decide not to do one. You're like, let's skip events altogether and maybe do something for Black Friday that we don't even know what. So it's prompts to help you think, right down to, because the reality is many of my clients want to do something with their team in December or January. They want to go out for a dinner to celebrate the holidays or celebrate the end of the year. Sometimes that happens in December, sometimes it happens in January. People are so busy, Andrew, they forget to think about that. So we've thought of it for you. So have a look at the list and remember,
Absolutely.
we're not saying you're not good and your clinic's not good if you don't do these things. We're saying here's a tool to help you remember to remember.
Yeah, 100%. And I really appreciate you sharing these resources with our community. And to wrap things up, we talked about a lot of things today, but I think my main takeaway and for the audience out there is that there is the running the practice side of things, right? And there's the mindset and entrepreneur side of things, which I think we're all, whether we're actively or sort of passively aware of this, like we all experience this as, people who run businesses. And the framework that you sort of provide, right, knowing yourself, right, as kind of being the core, you really can make some really bad decisions because ultimately you are going to be the person who has to do those things that you're going to sign up to do. If you don't know yourself well enough and you sign up for those things, you're going to waste a lot of money. But I think the biggest waste I see and what actually breaks my heart the most is the emotional energy and the sort of like the jadedness that starts to come from making bad decisions and continuing to make bad decisions. And and part of the reason I wanted to bring you on was because I feel like you do bring this nice balance between mindset, tactics, frameworks and methodology in a very practical way, because you've seen that with your experience that if you don't just focus on the foundational stuff, the fundamentals, it's very easy to get distracted, right? And so if you are a healthcare wellness entrepreneur out there who is very distracted, most of you are, you need to find someone like Ildi, right? And she has the programs and the frameworks and the experience to be able to, I'm sure she's probably seen most of your situations. And don't forget, none of your problems are special. We all have the same problems, right?
I know. It's true. Or I joke with my clients when they call me or text me or they message me about a new problem. I'm like, well, you don't get the award for being the first time in this category. It is happening. And I think around that point, we really pride ourselves on our community, which I would describe as small. I don't have a goal. I don't have a Facebook page. We don't have a Facebook group. There is no Facebook group to join. We meet in certain places, various times of the month. You can join in or not. The good part is when you know that you're ready for the help, you can come in and say, hey, here's a question that I have because I'm not sure. I'd like to check with others to see where I am.
Yep.
And I really appreciate you reinforcing the message to let people know that there are some principles in business which are easier to learn than you might think.
Yep.
The trick is, how do you apply them to who you are and where you are in your clinic continuum at the moment?
Yeah.
And I would also say that people don't need to show up with what I call a handed-in paper with perfect spelling and a cover page.
Yep.
Just show up with people like you and I who are willing to sit and have a discussion for where you are, where you want to go, get some clarity. I think when I hear you talk about, we all know that they're busy and distracted. I think sometimes the frameworks and systems that we use, they help people focus.
Mm-hmm. That's why they're there. Exactly.
They help people focus and cut out some of the noise.
You feel like you're just grasping less.
What you think you should be doing and etc. The reality is, yes, you absolutely should be implementing the funnels that you have, Andrew, and some of the in-clinic systems, let's say even at your front desk that we teach. But the reality is it's irresponsible to teach them if you're not there yet and it doesn't even fit or sound like you.
Correct.
That's not responsible at all.
And that's our job as consultants and outside third parties to actually pick the right customer. Because,
Well, that's it.
in the last week, I've actually had to turn away a couple because it was like, you're not quite there yet, or I think I
Or
could help you, but it's very risky for you where you are right now. And so there are certainly folks like us out there who I think we're honest because we realize that for every bad client that we take on board, it's actually a really bad thing for our business in terms of time
huge.
and energy and even financial risk, right? And so, and again, I want to bring on partners onto this show that sort of abide by that philosophy, right? And then not every client is a fit for you. You cannot help everybody.
No, it's
And
so true.
yeah,
And I think some people like they consultant coaches, service providers, they want to help and they're trying to put together great programs. Personally, I've spent 24 years being in the weeds with clinic owners every day. I love it. I'm built for it. I've tried to do it another way as well. To
yeah,
say,
me
well,
too. Yeah.
maybe,
Hmm.
right, you too. And it's important. I really appreciate you having this platform and discussion that even for you and I'm sure people look at us and go, well, they know what we're doing. Yeah, we do. But the rest of the sentence is, yeah, we do, from a massive amount of trial of error ourselves. But because we have clients like you, we got to see on scale what works and doesn't work.
Yep.
Why, what makes that important is that we've found a way to accelerate from point A to point B on thousands of other people's lessons and
Yeah.
insights. And
Yep.
so I really hope that this gives people encouragement and confidence and also permission to take a breath. You are not too late. You are right on time, and find a starting point. And the starting point is simply showing up.
Yeah. No, thanks for that, Ildi. Thanks for joining us today. We'll have you back on another episode very soon. We're going to get into some more sort of tactical things, and you've got some great resources and things available for our community there. You can connect with Ildi at our website, resultscontinuum with 2U's.com. You can also connect with her on Instagram at Ildi_Arlette, Arlette. She's got great content on there. She actually posts, a few times a week on the things that she's been doing, some of the practices that she's been working with, and some case studies. So there's a lot of really valuable content on her Instagram too. And like I said earlier, I will be sure to share all the free resources that you've been able to give to us with our community as well in the show notes too.
That's awesome.
Thanks so much for joining us today, Ildi. We'll see you on the next episode.
It was my pleasure.